Hi, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about one of the most influential and important bands of the 20th century. And they were famed for playing old-timey country, rock, folk music, and everybody seemed to love them. I'm talking about the band, and this one is about their second LP, just called The Band, or sometimes referred to as the Brown Album because of the cover. So stick around. The late 1960s were a turbulent time in American history. In the second half of 1969, men walked on the moon. The Manson murders occurred in Los Angeles during the same week that the Woodstock Festival was happening in New York. The musical landscape at the time was dominated by psychedelic bands and jam bands like the Grateful Dead. But the first stirrings of country rock started happening. It started first in 1968 with Bob Dylan's album John Wesley Harding. Then there was the Byrds' album Sweetheart of the Rodeo and the Flying Burrito Brothers' Gilded Palace of Sin. In September 1969, the band released their second LP. It was called the Brown LP because it had a brown cover. And this album recalled rural lifestyles and characters in America of the earlier 20th century. The band was formerly the Hawks. They covered a rockabilly singer named Ronnie Hawkins. Then, after they left him, they went with Bob Dylan. They were playing with him on the famous concert where he went electric and someone yelled Judas at him from the audience. And it was Bob Dylan that named them the band, purely because that's how everyone referred to them. There were 4 Canadians and 1 American. The main songwriter of the band was Robbie Robertson. He was also the guitarist, and his songs were stories that painted vivid pictures of old American life. Levon Helm was the only American in the band. He was the drummer, and he was also one of the 3 singers. He was from Arkansas and an amazing drummer and wonderful vocals that brought a type of Southern authenticity to their sound. Levon later became an actor. He played Loretta Lynn's father in the film Coal Miner's Daughter. On bass, fiddle, and another singer in the band was Rick Danko. His versatility added depth to the band's harmonies. He had a very distinctive voice, and he and Levon were a master rhythm section. Richard Manuel was the pianist, and he was the soulful element of the band, the heart. His expressive piano playing and soulful, haunting vocals were central to the band's emotion and delivery. He added a soulful and bluesy element. Then there was Garth Hudson. He was a classically trained musician who joined the band on the premise that they would pay him to give them music lessons, just to satisfy his father, who had paid to send Garth to music school. Garth was a wizard on the keyboards. He also played woodwinds. He was a master of the Lowrey organ, which was an anomaly in 60s music because most of the organists usually played farfisas or Hammond organs, and sometimes a clavinet. He provided a unique tonal quality that became a signature of the band's music. This album is a journey through the American experience of the early 20th century. Each track reflects different facets of rural life in the early 20th century. One of the standout songs is probably the most well-known, The Night They Drove Old Dixie Down. It's been covered by loads of people. It's a poignant ballad that delves into the despair of the South in post-Civil War. This poignant song delves into the despair of the South after the Civil War. A poor white Southerner tries to deal with the loss of his brother, his land, and his livelihood. And that one's sung very soulfully by Levon Helm. And they performed this song on the Ed Sullivan Show. It was one of the few times they were actually performing on TV. They were honored after the performance when Ed called them over to speak with them and tell them how wonderful he thought they were. And then he shook hands with all of them, and he held on to Rick Danko's hand a little too often. You can see Rick kind of trying to pull away. So I've added a link to that performance in the show notes down below. Another great song, it was sung by Richard Manuel. It was called King Harvest Has Surely Come. This was a song about the struggles and hopes of American farmers. A farmer lists his problems. His crops failed because of a drought, his barn burned, and now he's living in a city on Skid Row and talking to a union man about getting a factory job. This album by the band was revolutionary at the time. A lot of pop music at the time was looking to the future, futuristic sounds and futuristic subject matter. But the band looked back. They weaved stories that resonated with the collective American consciousness. The band's ability to blend rock, folk, and country set a precedent. Songs like The Night They Drove Old Dixie Down are timeless. They influenced countless musicians. Eric Clapton, when he was in Cream, liked to go to upstate New York and hang out with them. George Harrison, Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young, Elton John, and Pink Floyd were all big band fans. Each member of the band's contribution was vital to the sound. They created a synergy that produced such enduring songs. Robbie Robertson was the main songwriter of the band, but on a couple of the tunes on this LP, he collaborated with Levon Helm or Richard Manuel. And as I said before, Manuel, Helm, and Rick Danko were the three singers. If you haven't experienced this album, give it a listen and remember how American life really used to be, not some Hollywood fantasy. Everyone has a story, and this album has some great stories on it. Robbie Robertson's a master storyteller. So tell me, what are your favorite band songs? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the content, please like and subscribe. If there's a record or band you'd like for me to talk about, let me know in the comments. Thanks again, and I will see you in the next one.